making a little video because I've been getting some questions about your summative assessment on polynomials. So I'm not going to do the questions on your test, which is what summative means, right? I'm not going to do them for you, but what I am going to do is I'm going to show you, because it's an open notes test, right? So you can go back and look at your notes. So I'm going to show you where the different notes are that you can look at, and then I'll go over a couple examples in each part of the notes. All right, let's get started. So your teacher has broken it down into weeks, right? Week 1 was multiplying polynomials. Week 2 was factoring trinomials. And week 3 was factoring the greatest common factor. So conveniently, you have a notes sheet called Week 1 Assignment. Let's go back and look at the Week 1 assignment and see what it was all about. All right, I'm looking through my notability. Hopefully you did some stuff on notability. Maybe you printed it out or did it on notebook paper, in which case you got to look for that. So I'm going to go look for week 2, and as I'm typing into my search bar, I noticed that the week 2 assignment is right there. All right, so this one has a little writing on it, so maybe I'll pick a different one. I've done this assignment a few times with a few different people. All right, so this assignment, week 1, sorry, I'm supposed to look for week 1. I typed in week 2. So we're looking for week 1 assignment. There we go, my bad. Okay, so let's take a look here. The nice part about this is hopefully you have all your notes done and completed, just like I do. But if not, you can always email me and we can go through this more closely. So week 1 assignment on multiplying polynomials, that assignment should help you on the first part of the assessment. Let's do a couple of questions from the assignment. I just want to make sure that it's not the exact same as the assessment, but let's hope not anyway. So let's do a couple of these, or probably just one is fine. So the reason why these are here is because we are learning how to multiply what is called binomials. So this is probably the most simple kind of multiplying polynomials. Sorry, getting a little carried away here. Okay. So in order to multiply these binomials, we are going to multiply, the smaller pen. We're going to do every part of the first binomial, so the first x, times every part of the second binomial. So let's do it in order. X times x is x squared. Then I'm going to do x times positive 4. I get positive 4x. All right, we're done with the x. Now let's do the 10. 10 times x is 10x. 10 times 4 is 40. All right, and then the final step is just 4x and 10x adding together. X squared cannot be combined with anything else, so you just get x squared plus 14x, and then again, the 40 cannot be combined with anything else. There's no other like terms for 40, and so we just rewrite it. And then this would be your final answer. So that's the simplest way of multiplying polynomials, is when you just have 2 binomials. All right, let's see what happens now. Maybe make it a little more tricky. What happens when we have a negative involved? And right on top of this person's work here. Okay. One more time. Okay, so let's go through and do that same process. We are going to multiply the x times the second binomial. So x times x is x squared. X times positive 5 is positive 5x. And then we come and we look at the negative 6x times the other 2. Now, the most common mistake that people make on this is that they forget that this negative belongs with the 6. So something you can do to help yourself from making that mistake is before you start a problem, circle the number with the symbol in front of it. It might help you avoid making sign errors. Okay, so now we're going to do the negative 6 times the x. That's negative 6x. Negative 6 times positive 5 is negative 30. Again, the last step is to combine like terms. So 5x and negative 6x add together. We get x squared, and then minus 1x. Remember, when you combine like terms, it means add. So on your calculator, you would do 5 plus negative 6. And then this negative 30 can't combine with anything, so you rewrite it. There you go. That's the basics of multiplying binomials. So I hope that wasn't too complicated. Now there's other kinds of multiplying polynomials. So let's take a look down on the next page here, where we're going to run into, let's do this one. This one looks like a good one to try. We're going to run into a situation where these are actually multiplying binomials as well, but as you can see, instead of just having an x in front, you also have a number in front of the x. Nothing you can't handle, but let's just do one example to make sure we understand. We'll do the 3x times the 4x first, and then we will do the 3x times the negative 9 next. So when you're multiplying by an x and a number, you have to do the 3x times 4x. So 3 times 4 is 12, and x times x is x squared. Nothing too crazy, right? Next, we have to do the 3x times the negative 9. 3x times negative 9 just means you do the negative 9 times the 3 to get negative 27, and then there's only one x there. Let's do the other one. So now we're going to do negative 7, and there's 2 multiplications. So the first one is negative 7 times 4x. So you do the negative 7 times the 4 to get negative 28, and then there's only one x there. And then finally, you have negative 7 times negative 9, and that's going to be plus 63. So this is the first time we've seen 2 negatives multiply to a positive, so keep your eye out for that situation. And then now we're going to add our numbers together. Remember, the first x squared doesn't get combined with anything because there's no other x squareds. Negative 27 and negative 28 would be negative 55x. And then we have a positive 63 that doesn't get combined, and that's our final answer. Okay, now there's one other type of multiplication that you might need to look into, and that's when we have 2 very large things being multiplied. So again, you have a whole notes sheet on this, and you have videos to watch about this. So if you need to go back and spend a few minutes reviewing, I would definitely recommend it. But let's do one of these together. Again, I'm going to white out what this student did just so we can learn about it from a full example. So it's the same idea where you're starting with the first part of the binomial, but now the second polynomial has 3 terms. So you need to do 2x times 5x squared, 2x times negative 15x, 2x times 2. And it can get a little confusing. Some of you might use the box method. I'm not going to go over that. If you would like me to, then I'd be happy to just email me and I'll go over that method with you. So 2x times 5x squared, that looks like this. 2x times 5x squared. So that's actually 2 times 5 to get 10. And then you have x to the third because it's 1x, 2x, 3x. All right, it's going to always be 2x times, and then negative 15x is the next term, so negative 15x. So you have 2 times negative 15, which is negative 30, and then you have x times x, which is just x squared. All right, we got one more to do before we're done with this run. We got 2x times 2, so that's 2 times 2 to get 4. And then you have the x, no other x's added to it or multiplied by it, so we're going to leave it there. All right, I'm going to kind of shift my work over. Oh, no. All right, well, I'm just going to shift this over, and then I'll cover up the stuff that we don't want. Sorry, guys. That's what happens when I don't use a blank worksheet. All right, just ignore that red. Okay, so now we are going to do 3x times 5x squared. So let me write that down. Let's write it over here. Negative 3 times 5x squared. So that's negative 3 times 5 to get negative 15. And then there's no other x's than the x squared, so you just write x squared. Next one, negative 3 times negative 15x. So negative 3 times negative 15x is what it looks like. Negative 3 times negative 15 is positive 40. And then there's no more x's, so you just rewrite the x. And then finally, we have negative 3 times positive 2. So that's the negative 6. So you just write negative 6 there. Now, the tricky part is that you have to look for like terms to combine. So the x squareds are going to get combined, and then our 4x and our 40x are going to get combined. And then just like before, the people on the end are loners. They don't get combined. So 10x to the third, negative 30 and negative 15 add up to negative 45. Remember, on your calculator, you're always going to add. So negative 30 plus negative 15. And then positive 4 and positive 40 add up to 44x. And then negative 6 is over here at the end. So this is our final answer for that. Now, I'm not sure if on the summative they're going to give you one of these, but if you see a square on the outside of binomial, it just means the same thing twice. So you can rewrite it as two things and then do the normal multiply through to get your answer. All right, so that was week 1. And remember, you can always look back at your week 1 notes and go over this. Now we want to go on to week 2. That was the second part of your assignment here. And what we learned about that week was we learned about how to factor trinomials. So let's just jump right in and do a couple of examples. Remember that when you're factoring trinomials, you always want to look at this number first. That number tells you what two numbers you're looking for that you need to multiply to. Then you're going to look at this middle number. That tells you what two numbers that you're looking for add up to negative 5. Some of you might have seen this in middle school where you make a x and you know that you put your multiply on top and your add on the bottom. I like to make a list personally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take negative 14. And I know that my middle number is negative 5, so my bigger numbers are going to be negative. So I know it's going to be 1 and negative 14, and it's going to be 2 and negative 7. Those are my only options. So I need to figure out which one of these options is going to add up to negative 5. Well, pretty clearly, at least to me, it's going to be 2 and negative 7. So then our final answer is x plus 2, x minus 7. And if you wanted to check your answer, you could multiply through and make sure that you end up with this after you combine like terms, just like we did from week 1, right? Week 1 is your way to check your answer for week 2 and week 3, actually. Kind of cool. All right, so hopefully that's a good reminder. Let's go over just a couple of details here. So one detail is that if you have a number that is positive that you need to multiply to, but negative that you need to add to, then what's going to end up happening is you're going to have two numbers that are negative, because those two numbers multiply up to a positive, but they're going to add up to a negative. So keep that in mind there. And another trick that comes up sometimes is that you might see an x with no number. Remember, that's a secret 1. Or if it was a negative x, it would be a secret negative 1. So keep that in mind. You might run into a couple of those little pitfalls. All right, that was week 2. So let's go and review just a little bit of week 3 here. Hopefully I have one. All right, so here's a bunch of examples from week 3, but let's just take a look here. The way I teach this is that GCF factoring, you're trying to divide the biggest thing possible that you can out of all of the terms, and that goes out front. And then you divide it out of all the other parts. Now, this is where you set up your leftovers, right? Where you put the things that you divided out. Now, somebody told me today that the easiest way to do this is first you find the GCF. So the biggest number that can divide 50, 40, and 30 is 10. And then you look for the variable with the smallest exponent. So in this case, it's x squared. Now, a student told me that this strategy is much easier. I need to find what number to put there, that if I multiplied this times this, I would get this back. So 10 times 5 is 50. And then x squared, well, it's already x squared in our result. So we don't need to put any more x's there. Let's do the next one. 10 times 4 is 40. There's only 2 x's here and I need 6, so I need to multiply by 4 more x's. And then finally, 10 times 3 is 30. And I only have 2, but I want 9 x's. So that means I'm going to do 2 to the 7th for my answer. And there you have it. That's your final answer for factoring out a GCF. And you can always multiply. Just like I said for week 2, you can multiply and find your final answer and check that you got what you started with. That's how you know you're correct. Okay, hopefully this was helpful. Also remember, open notes test means you should be able to go back to your week 1 notes, your week 2 notes, and your week 3 notes and use them to help you get the right answer. Good luck on your summative.